Hello, my name is Cynthia De Leon. I'm a librarian here at Central Library, and today we're having 5 in 25 essential news vocabulary. Welcome to 5 in 25. Here, we're going to discuss events that develop quickly, often bringing new news terms into everyday conversations and newscasts. And every month, we discuss 5 current news terms. So this is 5 in 25. And our terms this month are virtual kidnappings, infrastructure, Boba, Northern Triangle, and Jim Crow. So on our first term is virtual kidnapping. What is virtual kidnapping? Well, virtual kidnapping is when a demand is made, but there's no actual hostage taken to accompany the demand. The criminals don't actually have the person that they are demanding the ransom for. This scheme works in many different ways, and many criminals target relatives of travelers or students abroad, since those relatives are already anxious about their loved ones and they have difficulty contacting them. Virtual kidnapping has been around for a while. The crime of virtual kidnapping has been on the scene since at least 2017, when Latino immigrants in Los Angeles, there were doctors or other people, and in Houston were targeted originally. But it has made the New York Times front page within the last year because of recent targeting of Chinese students in Australia. Also, there's been a rash of virtual kidnappings in the US state of Georgia and all over the country. Relatives are contacted and told to pay a ransom or harm will come to the kidnapped victim. But the criminals don't actually have the person they're calling about. In some cases, as in Georgia, the supposed victims are sound asleep in their own beds. And going back to the 2017 incidents, according to authorities investigating the 2017 incidents, the American calls originated from cell phones that had been smuggled inside Mexican prisons. The prisoners had phones smuggled into their cells, and then they just started dialing. They could easily find area codes and prefixes of American phone numbers, and then they just started making up the last 4 digits at random and started dialing and seeing who they could get. More sophisticated virtual kidnappers use spoofing, which is a technique to disguise phone numbers, and they disguise the phone numbers as those of loved ones. They had first go online and find contact lists and stalk social media profiles to better trick their targets using names and things that the person, the target the mark will recognize when they pick up the phone. Then they get a gullible person on the line and pretend to have kidnapped the relative of whoever answers the phone. And there's been a really large targeting of Mandarin speakers, Chinese students studying abroad in Asia. This is in Asia, it's rather complicated. The ones they're studying, there are Asian students studying abroad in Australia, According to the New York Times, there's all these robocalls that are sent by the criminals. They deliver messages to thousands of random phones purporting to be from a messenger service. It says a package needs to be delivered, and it's in Mandarin. Those who continue on the call are greeted by someone speaking Mandarin who asks for basic identity information, name, address, phone number, anything else they can use, and promises to call back. For the Chinese students in Australia, whose ranks have swelled, this trick could work because the students feel isolated and they don't know who to trust. They fall under the psychological control of the virtual kidnappers. Again, in the Australian virtual kidnapping, the victim is not really kidnapped. Instead, Chinese students who get involved are blackmailed by someone pretending to be from the Chinese embassy or another authority. They just ring the victims and inform them that they have been implicated in a crime in China or are facing some other threat. And the students are lured into hiding. They're told they have to go into hiding at a hotel and told not to contact anyone for a certain number of days. In some cases, the Chinese students are tricked into taking pictures of themselves bound and blindfolded. The virtual students then call the students' parents. The virtual kidnappers. The students are real. It's the kidnappers who aren't really kidnapping them. The virtual kidnappers then call the students' parents and send pictures of the blindfolded students while demanding a ransom. And large ransoms have been paid by frightened families. And again, to specify, these phone calls are made totally random. So they have to make lots and lots of phone calls before they get someone who will bite, who will believe that their relative is being kidnapped. So what you should do, according to local sheriff's departments, is try to get hold of that person via another means and determine that they are okay before you get too involved. Or you contact the authorities immediately if you suspect anything. Now, virtual kidnappings are not the same as digital kidnappings. According to Wikipedia, digital kidnapping is the theft of a minor's photo, posing as them or posting as their parents online. Now onto something a little more pleasant. What is infrastructure? Infrastructure is transportation, water, power. It includes the internet, bridges, railways, electrical grids, drinking water, airports, ports, like I said. And the word infrastructure is used by people in government, urban planners, engineers, and architects to mean things that we need as a community to thrive. It refers to our basic transportation need. We need infrastructure to be able to get groceries in the store and to get to work, for example. So we need the roads, we need the buses. And according to the Brookings Institution, a well-respected think tank, our growing population and our diverse economy need improved infrastructure. But why is it in the news? Well, because there's a 2.29 trillion infrastructure spending bill before Congress, and our infrastructure lags behind China's. But where does the word come from? Well, the word infra is from Latin, it means below. So it means the structure below the structure. When the word first came about, it referred to subway lines and tunnels underground. According to Merriam-Webster dictionary, the word was first used in France in the 1870s, but was popularized by urban planners in the US in the 1920s. Now on to our next word, boba. Well, what is it? According to allrecipes.com, the word boba is used to refer to the bubbles or tapioca pearls at the bottom of a special tea drink called bubble tea. And boba also refers to the bubble tea itself. Boba is made from tapioca starch. The tea drink is made with condensed milk and black or green tea. And the boba bubbles sink to the bottom and have a nice chewy texture, and they're really delicious. As far as I can tell, the drink with the boba bubbles, the boba tea, or the bubble tea, originated in Taiwan in the 1980s and was possibly brought to the US by Taiwanese immigrants in the 1990s. But the boba craze didn't really take off until the 2000s because of the advent of social media. Why is boba in the news? There's a boba shortage because of the shipping problems due to the pandemic. Supplies from Asia importing to the US are very slow because of COVID policies put into place, and these COVID policies are creating a shortage of supplies. That's according to wholesalers that work with Bubble Tea Canada and Bubble Tea USA. There's just not enough empty containers returning to Asia to continue the cycles, and cargo ships can't leave the Los Angeles ports. So there's a shortage of these little boba pearls or made from tapioca starch that are in the bottom of the tea. But boba is not the only food we're running short of. Other food shortages include a shortage of pepperoni and a shortage of ketchup packets. Pepperoni is in short supply because everybody's ordering pizza because of the pandemic. They're staying home and they're having pizza delivered, doing takeout. Ketchup packets are especially in short supply because so many people are ordering takeout during the pandemic and putting pressure on the suppliers. You can even buy ketchup packets or sell them on eBay. And they're going for more money, like $5. Heinz will be ramping up its production of ketchup by 25%. So this ketchup shortage, like the boba shortage and the pepperoni shortage, will be only for a small amount of time. But have you had boba tea lately? Do you miss having boba tea? Have you noticed the boba shortage? Let us know in the chat. Thanks. Our next word is Northern Triangle. And we're talking here specifically about the Northern Triangle of Central America. Where is the Northern Triangle? The Northern Triangle of Central America refers to Honduras, Guatemala, and El Salvador. If you connect the dots between the three capital cities of these countries, they form a triangle. And these countries are grouped together because of their shared economic challenges. The Northern Triangle of Central America is in the news because of the surge of migrants from these countries at the southern border of the US with Mexico. People are fleeing gang-related violence, terrible poverty, and government corruption from all of these countries. That's Honduras, El Salvador, and I'm missing one, and Guatemala. There's also back-to-back hurricanes, and the COVID-19 pandemic have worsened economic woes in these countries as well. According to sources such as the different sources online, these countries suffer from some of the highest rates of domestic and gang violence in the world. And how long have we used the term Northern Triangle? It seems fairly new. Well, the organization Insight Crime, a reporting website about crime in Central America, says that the phrase Northern Triangle was first used following the signing of a trade agreement in Honduras on May 12, 1992. And the name became popular years later with the signing of the Mexico Central America Free Trade Agreement in 2001. Again, the word Northern Triangle to refer to those countries in Central America has been in the news a lot lately because of the migration. The Migration Policy Institute states that the US Border Patrol has made 52,000 encounters of children and adults traveling as families, and about 30,000 unaccompanied children have been seen along the southwest border in the fiscal year 2020. There's been a surge in migrants seeking asylum at the US-Mexico border. Most of the migrants, but not all of them, are from the Northern Triangle. And I'd like to point out that while US reporting emphasizes the woes and misery of these countries, it's also important to remember that these countries contain a rich history, lots of natural beauty, and resilient people. As a Honduran immigrant named Pradis once told me, "Mi país es muy hermoso." My country is very beautiful. Let's hope that things can be improved so people can stay in the Northern Triangle lands that they love. My last term, the fifth term, is Jim Crow. Jim Crow, why is this phrase in the news? Opponents of Georgia's new voting laws are using the phrase new Jim Crow when discussing new changes in the law that would restrict voting access by limiting voting by mail, reduce the time allowed to mail the ballot back, and new ID restrictions and other changes. Opponents of these new changes in the voting laws in Georgia say that they would discourage voters or prevent people from voting, especially Black voters. According to the Southern Poverty Law Center, U.S. Representative Jim Clyburn called Georgia's sweeping new voter suppression law the new Jim Crow, while voting rights advocate Stacey Abrams called it Jim Crow 2.0, and President Joe Biden called it Jim Crow in the 21st century. People use the word Jim Crow in the phrase Jim Crow laws or Jim Crow era. And the Jim Crow era was from the 1880s to the passage of the Civil Rights Act in 1964. And this is according to the Encyclopedia of Race and Racism. Well, who or what is Jim Crow? So again, Jim Crow refers to the system of racism all over the South but Credo Reference, our library database, discusses Jim Crow laws in Georgia. Jim Crow laws passed by Georgia in 1891 required segregation along racial lines from cradle to grave. Segregated public facilities included hospitals, restaurants, swimming pools, toilets, schools, prisons, barbershops, parks, sports arenas, movie theaters, and even libraries, telephone booths, and burial grounds. And of course, lunch counters. Interracial marriage and interracial sports teams were also prohibited by law. So was Jim Crow a real person? No. Jim Crow was originally a demeaning and racist character in a minstrel show or a stage production popular in the 1800s and early 1900s, featuring stereotypical and highly offensive depiction of blacks. Jim Crow was portrayed by a white man from the North named Thomas Dartmouth Rice in the 1880s. Dartmouth Rice would wear blackface or exaggerated makeup that caricatured Black people and sing a song about Jim Crow. Have you heard the phrase Jim Crow before? Let us know in the chat. Thanks. That's all my 5 in 25, and we hope to see you next month. Thank you very much.